Hello, everyone. Welcome to Creativity-Hive's weekly show. I'm Miriam Haugen, part of the Creativity-Hive team. We help budding videographers achieve massive post-production skills through one-on-one teaching and live group coaching. And today we have Ian Garmaise.
You got it.
Did I say it right?
Right. Yeah.
And he's going to tell us about the virtual film school. And it's just a fascinating project. And I would love to hear what the virtual school, film school is all about.
Well, I guess that we are part of the influencer trend. I mean, everybody knows that there's been a lot of growth of that sort of thing. People want to create personalities for themselves on social media. And these days, video is a very common approach. But I guess our idea was that many people produce these videos and they're not really that well done, right? They don't meet their potential. So what we decided to do when this company was formed was to put together some highly experienced film industry professionals to act as live online instructors. And we want to teach people, A, how to make great social videos, and B, how to monetize them effectively. Because for many people, this is actually a way that they can make a living. I mean, for many people, this is a bit of a surprise, but it's a reality. And so we are trying to help people be more successful doing that. And many people need to create videos for other purposes as well, but that's a primary focus for us.
Awesome. I'm going to bring Mo and Neil on. And we're working on, we were going to show the little opener for virtual film school from the website, but have to get it in the right format.
It's actually in the right format, Maria.
It is in the right format. Okay, we'll see if I can add it.
Yes.
But meanwhile, okay, what?
It's called the Virtual Film School. Are you next?
Yes, and I see, but it says the file name, directory name, or volume label syntax is incorrect. I don't know why, but it's not liking it.
Okay, so let me just change that for you. I'll take out the question mark at the end of next.
Oh, that's probably the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So who, I noticed that you talk about a lot about short film, short form. So more social media kinds of things.
Yeah. I mean, personally, if you ask me what my personal preference is, I like slightly longer form videos. And when I met you earlier, we talked about one that I like. But, if you're talking about young people, they tend to like very short form, 30 seconds, a couple of minutes. And that's what they're comfortable with. And that's what, platforms like TikTok tend to focus on. So figuring out how to have a lot of impact in 2 or 3 minutes is not really that simple. And then many people try and they're not that great at it, right? Yeah. So our feeling is that, at our faculty, the CEO, Frank Chindamo, has been teaching new media for a long time, probably 20 years, in various schools in California. So he's an experienced director. He's been in the business for quite a while. So he understands storytelling. He understands the technical aspects of directing. And so I guess his feeling was, and his partners, that by bringing together a group of very experienced people, they could accelerate the process of people becoming more adept at this sort of thing. I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to learn. You have to learn this basic video skills, but also storytelling, also maybe audio management, lots of things. And there really wasn't a good program out there that covered all of this. So we decided to put one together, and that it's been in development for 2 or 3 years. And really, we're just now coming to market in several different geographies.
All right. Well, we have that. Let's go ahead and show the opener from the website here.
Movies can take us anywhere.
So can virtual reality.
So if you want to be a filmmaker, why would you study in a classroom like this?
When you could study in a classroom like this.
Using the same technologies we used on Avatar. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and Lord of the Rings. We've created a new film school for a new media.
And it works. Our students have become stars on YouTube, TikTok, and more.
Traditional film schools are vastly more expensive and use outdated teaching techniques. And they're definitely not set up for online learning. We use live instructors who mentor you in our proprietary virtual classrooms.
The world's greatest teachers, cutting-edge technology in your home. This is where your future starts.
It worked for me.
Are you next? virtualfilmschool.org. Higher education for the next generation.
Okay, very interesting. So lots of questions, I guess.
Sure.
With the virtual film school, I see your curriculum involves everything from the fundamentals to visual effects to motion graphics.
Yes.
Intro to social media. It's quite extensive.
Yes.
How is the the classes actually configured? Is it a group of students sitting in a physical place with VR glasses on, or is it a completely online experience?
Yeah, I mean, so in the test classes, the videos of which you can see on the site, they were all in the same location. But the idea is that people can be anywhere. All they really need is a decent internet connection and the headset that we recommend. And that currently is the Quest 2 headset because that's the best available, but there will shortly be a number of others available. But yeah, you could be anywhere. And now that, we're looking at a number of different ways to deliver the course material. So right now, for example, what I'm doing in Canada is that we are looking at partnering with high schools. And in our case, in case of Canada, we're focusing on the Indigenous community as a starting point, right? And so in those cases, they may have the headsets in the classroom, right? But in England, for example, we're launching direct to the consumer. And in those cases, people will have headsets in the home and will be able to take the class anywhere. And it's an experiment, so we're going to see how that goes over the next few months.
Well,
Go ahead.
okay. So I'm wondering, how are they going to be in the same time? I mean, they're going to be together with other students.
Well, they'll be together in the VR classroom.
In the VR classroom.
Yeah, you saw the example of that video. So, the instructor and the other students are represented by avatars.
Okay.
So
So you could look over to your left and see a fellow student, and look to your right and see a fellow student.
Yeah, and so the idea is you have this virtual representation of a classroom. You have avatars for the people, but you can also introduce visual elements like a video screen or some animation can be introduced into the action. And that is the kind of thing that would be hard to do if you were doing it on Zoom, for example.
Okay.
Right.
So we don't teach all of our classes in VR because some of our classes are business classes. So how to monetize. So that doesn't need to be in VR. So some of our classes are taught on Zoom, but the ones that have to do with visual skills are taught in VR. And,
and I see you got a really great team. I mean, like Robin, VFX. I mean, strategist, etc. So, Ivan as well, and Peter. So there's a lot of big names. I guess you've got everyone into the company, and they've collaborated, and they're bringing their area of expertise into it, which I can understand has taken you 2 years to develop. Have you guys yet gone to market, or is it still in a beta test?
It's really just happening right now. And as I mentioned, in my case, I am focusing on the Indigenous community in Canada. And just this morning, I got in touch with a very important prospect of one of the major Indigenous nations. And things are in the works. So we're hoping that their course will launch maybe over the summer. It's the kind of thing that can be done in the summertime. And the other point I should make, following up on something that was said earlier, is the courses that you see described on the website currently are for a full 2-year curriculum, which is now an accredited program. So you can get a bachelor's degree. But what is new is that we are now featuring a 1-month course, and that will shortly be added to the website. This has just been finalized. And that's what we are pitching to the high schools, because that makes more sense in a high school environment But there's quite a few other people that are probably will be interested in the full program, and that's something we'll discover as we proceed.
So at the end of the 2 year, it's a bachelor's degree
Yeah,
in
yeah,
media studies, I'm sure, right?
yeah.
Are you guys looking to go further than that, like something like a master's degree in media studies? Is that a possibility at this stage?
That would probably make sense. And
Yeah.
I would say we have to take baby steps right now because I mean, there's a lot new here. There's hardly anybody doing this kind of VR classroom. There are some experiments in different places, but it's not widespread yet. And so we need to get people used to the idea. Now, as I'm sure you know, companies like Meta are very focused on making this kind of device more commonplace. They've sold about 10 million Quest 2 headsets so far, which is really not a lot yet, but they're going to be really putting a lot of emphasis on making progress there, and so will the other entrants into the market. So in other words, we're kind of dependent on the prevalence of the hardware. Once the hardware becomes commonplace, then it's going to be an easier sell. Right now, many people buy the Quest 2 headset, they play with it for a couple of weeks, they play some games, and then they put it on the shelf.
Put it away, yes.
Right? Because there's not a lot of really good programming available. But we hope to be changing that by offering something.
You guys are doing the short programs, right? Say the month program.
Yeah, that's what's going to be. It's now going to be listed on the website very shortly, and that is what is shown in those videos. Those people are taking 2-week or 1 month programs.
And will that my question is, do your courses incorporate the cost of the headset, or is it up to the student to buy their own headset? I'm trying to understand that, because especially with the indigenous sector, are you guys going to provide it, or just as an example, if I wanted to do a course as an example, right?
Yeah.
If I enroll, is it all part of it? I mean, I can understand the 2-year might provide that as part of it. It's a long course, it can absorb the costs, but for a short month, it's not a cheap headset by any standard.
Right.
It's a great headset. So how do you guys go about getting around that?
Well, in the case of our focus market in Canada, which is the indigenous, they are eligible for a wide range of subsidies from various parties, including governments, general private sector firms, and companies like Meta, which have lately been subsidizing headsets to a large extent. There are 7 universities, for example, in the U.S., where Meta has equipped the entire student population with headsets. Right, so that's the what they're putting into this. So our feeling, at least in Canada, for the market that we are approaching there, is that we'll be able to get subsidies. In the case of an individual taking a 2-year course, it's not included in the price. Okay. But I mean, if you buy 2 textbooks, if you're taking a university program,
yes,
buy 2 textbooks, that's $300.
Yeah.
Right.
I did see when I was poking around the website that it was an add-on, I think, for one of the classes I was looking at. Here's the cost for the class, and then for an extra, I don't remember how much it was, you can add in the headset.
Yeah, that's just for simplicity of ordering.
Yeah.
So if they don't want to get involved in ordering it themselves, then we can arrange it for them. But our feeling is that there will be rapid growth in the acquisition of these headsets by the general public, and also by schools. Many schools will be starting to equip their students with these headsets for a lot of different kinds of programs. And so we're hoping that will become more prevalent, and then we'll be able to work with those schools without them having to make any additional investment.
And you can, the courses can be demographically stretched across continents, I'm sure.
Yes.
Naturally, yeah.
Yeah, and the way that it's delivered, and so there is a kind of, because people often ask, how can you scale that?
Yeah.
Right, and so it is a challenge because it's live instructions. There's no recordings. Right, and
is it live instructions? Okay,
yeah,
so it's not on demand. No,
that's right, because it's there's too much of a need for interactivity here.
Yes.
So the faculty are based either in Hollywood or London, UK.
Okay.
Right, and we just structure things in such a way that the courses can be scheduled in a way that will work for, maybe not for everybody, but for the majority of the people who want to take the courses. And in terms of providing attention to the students. So you have the professor or the instructor at the top of the pyramid, and then you have mentors who are the intermediate layer, and you would typically have one mentor for 20 students.
Okay.
Right, and that can be scaled by adding mentors. And that way, if a student needs some help with something, they can first approach the mentor. And the mentor should be able to handle it. If they can't, then they would escalate the question to the professor. Right.
And that's great, because you can, I'm sure, you can bring in guest lecturers or professionals from the industry virtually, which is quite unique in its approach. So I think this is quite an amazing. I would love to see that in action. I would really love to see how this works. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of teething problems technology-wise. It's lots of students and the usual kind of issues. But how does one get to see this in action? Is there a trial that somebody can sit in on, or a class, and just to see how?
Yeah, we don't have a formal trial, although what we are planning to do with our sort of like our initial customer in Canada is that we're going to allow some guests to participate. That we will designate, and so some people that we think it would be really important for them to have a look at it, like myself. I'm going to be a guest in this first launch of the course, because it's important that I become more familiar with it myself. Right. So I think that's the way we're going to go for the time being. Mm-hmm. Down the road, we might set up some kind of a trial. And there's a few interesting online schools where we're trying to look at what they've done and learn from their approach. So, but it's all new, like this is
it's exciting. But yeah,
it's very exciting. I mean, if I look at the orientation week in my mind, it's like, how are you going to do it? Is it virtual? Is it not? And then if you look at the post-production, which is where that's where we live. Yeah. Are you focusing on any particular types of software, or is it quite open at this point?
I believe they use Final Cut Pro for editing, because we do have an editing module. Right. And that's kind of an industry standard, as I understand it. I'm not an expert at this, but that's what I've been told. So there are different methods in which that can be licensed to people for educational purposes.
Final Cut Pro is only Mac. You have to be on a Mac to use it. You cannot use it on a PC.
Right. Yeah. So there are some restrictions, and there may be other options. There are lots of other editing tools that are available now. There's some free ones that are interesting that I've been looking at, but I don't have a lot of personal experience with it.
Yeah, why don't you talk a little bit about your background, because you're coming at this not with a film background.
No, but I do have an ed tech. I started my career working for an MIT-based startup, but it was in Canada. That at the time was probably one of the foremost ed techs in the world. It was quite a while ago. We produced an Apple white label product, a couple of them, and we produced products from Microsoft, several Japanese companies. It was a kind of an early programming language environment for children, and I was there for quite a while. So that's where I got my initial, involvement with startups and with ed tech, and it was really a great experience. After that, I worked in different areas of technology, different startups, either my own or other people's startups. And most recently, I was working for another educational firm, which was focused on education in China. And that was really useful because it sort of introduced me to a lot of what's going on there. And, for whatever, there's a lot of experimentation has been going on in education in China. It's such a kind of a vast territory with a lot of interest in education generally. So I got exposed to a lot of different aspects of their, online educational approach. And so I was there for a few years, and that's kind of why I got interested in the film school, because it allowed me to sort of make use of some of the experience that I'd had in other educational platforms. And I should say that, we're starting with film school, but there's no reason why it has to be limited to that, right? So we are looking at other kinds of training down the road. Language training, which is the area that I was working in previously. But there's still a huge interest in language training around the world, and we think that maybe the VR platform is a good way, because maybe you could learn in a kind of a social way instead of just one person talking to another person. You might be able to have a group where you can see your fellow participants and interact with them in interesting ways. So that's something we want to explore, but not for now. And there's also opportunities in the corporate world.
Yes.
You know, probably important to look at. There's a couple.
What kind of prompted you guys to start with the film industry? I mean, it's got to be the toughest, technologically toughest industry.
Well, it was a function of who the founders were, right? So you saw them in the video.
Yeah. Yeah.
Frank Chindamo is now the CEO. You know, he's got 30 or 40 years in the film business, and then he had probably 20 years in education in California. So he's got the mix of the educational background and the film industry background. And he was involved in new media, very early.
Okay.
Right, and he was a new media instructor before that was fairly common. Now it's commonplace. So he has a lot of experience, and those graduates that he mentioned that were mentioned in the video, those were people who studied under him in his programs in California.
Okay.
Right.
Freddie.
Yeah, Freddie. So we have brand names, and and I'm also very focused on what's happening in China in that regard because of what he's involved in. Whatever we're talking about here, you can multiply it by 10 in China. Like they are very advanced in VR, and their influencer economy has just been growing at massive rates.
Massively, yes.
And in China, like if you ask the average 25-year-old what their career aspiration is, the idea of becoming an influencer is actually increasingly prevalent.
Yes, it's becoming the top priority. It's a funny thing because you can monetize it and pretty much become a multi-millionaire.
Well, that's what they think.
Yeah, well,
I don't think it's so easy as what they imagine. Though
becoming a multimillionaire is not easy, but like the average person, can reasonably expect to maybe make $50,000 a year. Yeah. And if you're living in a community in northern Quebec, and you don't have a lot of other job options, but you do have a cell phone, smartphone, and you do have an internet connection,
right?
Effectively, you have all the ingredients that you need, to using these platforms that provide monetization to make a living for yourself without having to move to a city. And that's something which is not easy to find, right?
Absolutely,
yeah.
But
it's a nice niche market. It's a great niche market. I mean, I'm calling it niche. It's actually not niche, but it's great that it's being brought to the forefront. I'm looking at the kind of course curriculums you have here. It's quite vast. So the goal here is to teach, and just very simplistically, to teach anyone, young or old, how to get onto essentially social media, more or less. That's just one area, and what becoming a content creator actually means, the fundamentals of understanding new media, understanding technology, how to shoot, how to actually get the message across. It reminds me of a normal film school. Yeah, So I was head of post-production at a film school, a traditional film school. So you be in a classroom. So I'm just kind of thinking back about that. So this is pretty much similar, but it's so nice because it crosses barriers, it crosses continents, it crosses the whole world. And I see that you have Beijing, and there's a whole lot of places that you guys have tested. China, Singapore, Finland, Japan, USA. So it seems that this has been in development for quite a while. So I'm sure it's going to be quite a big success, actually.
Yeah,
and they've got Nikki Weber as well, who's got a huge TikTok channel.
Yeah. So one point I should have. The Beijing one was an interesting one. So it was done prior to the Olympics, and the objective was for people to be quickly trained. I think it was 2 weeks, and that they should be able to create a video at the end of the class, at the end of the program. And so we had 20 students, and we got 20 videos created and put on platforms.
Was this using VR tech?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Frank Chindamo was actually in Beijing, but some of the other instructors came in by VR, right? So that was a way for us to try things out in a kind of an interesting environment where people are probably even more focused on social media than people in the West are.
Definitely, yes.
And they're very comfortable with short videos. Like it's extremely important.
So the training is VR, but the deployment is not going to be, the end result is not for VR, right? It's
That's
not
right. I
really.
mean, at the moment, because general VR platforms are not yet broadly
No,
available.
not
That could
available.
change.
Absolutely.
That could very well change. But
Yeah.
at the moment, it's TikTok is kind of like the order of the day, and other
Yeah, when
platforms.
you say short form, the Chinese are great at short form. Well, where did TikTok originate?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And for longer form, YouTube is a good platform, which provides. And actually, TikTok just enhanced their monetization a couple of weeks ago to make it easier for people to earn money in the same way that they do on YouTube. They did have it before, but it's become simplified. So
Interesting.
the mechanics are coming together to make it easier for people to do this, because they recognize that it's a lot of work to. I mean, many people don't realize how much work goes into those successful influencer videos. Like it looks like somebody just threw it together because they try to give that impression, but it's not the case. There's a lot of effort that goes into it, right?
Absolutely. Look, with you've got different emerging VR technologies that they've come and they've gone. There was Oculus, and now it's this. The Quest is there, and then you got HoloLens, which Microsoft touted as the next best thing to slice bread, I guess. But it was really a nice set of glasses, that HoloLens. They're talking about the next generation HoloLens, which is under wraps at the moment. So VR was very slow on the uptake. It had a kind of a spike, and then everyone said, no, it's not ready for me because of certain things. And then one of the biggest questions I would have is doing a VR class, and I'm assuming your classes last for about an hour, 45 minutes, so roughly there. A lot of people get a bit woozy, and there's a little bit of issues with VR at this stage. If that is the case, is there an option to do the classes non-VR at this point in time?
Yes, the platform that we're using does permit that. We're kind of not emphasizing that because we see the VR as a kind of a key advantage of the approach, right? And so we don't, what you say about the fatigue is an important factor, and many people are familiar with those kind of challenges. The problem is getting reduced. With the most recent generations, it's not quite as serious a challenge as it used to be, and that will continue to improve. I mean, there's vast amounts of resources going into this now, and I would keep an eye on whatever Apple does. It should be within the year.
Within the year,
they will probably be announcing something which will be a significant step forward, and which will make it more comfortable for people to try these things out. And the Chinese have developed some very thin glasses. Which are less uncomfortable to wear, probably, and not yet in the global market, but might very well soon be, depending on a lot of other factors.
Well, the HoloLens too was quite intriguing. It wasn't a wraparound; it was more HUD. So it was interesting because it didn't cause that much of fatigue, and then it had retinal scanning, and it would follow your pupils and stuff, but it lost the ability to see around you. In the 180 kind of angle. So the next iteration, from what I've heard, and Apple's a few important papers that have just been filed, if you follow that kind of thing, is they're talking about something that it's mind-boggling. Actually, I don't even know what they're about to do. So it's all based on the facial recognition software that's on the iPhone at the moment. You can now use it with the mask on during COVID. How does it recognize you? It's just amazing. And they're talking about something that's completely just kind of transparent. It's totally transparent, right? And what it does, it has an opaque layer that comes down. Not really comes down, but it makes it opaque. Yes. So you don't feel like you're claustrophobic. So that reduces the fatigue, because you feel that you're in a transparent environment, whereas all the other manufacturers were more in a kind of plasticky feel. You cement it in. So it would be very nice to follow that trend, and that would impact greatly on your kind of guys' success and going forward. So I think what you guys are doing is great. Would love to stay in touch with you, Ian, about sitting in on something.
Yeah. Definitely looking forward to watching the trajectory here and what happens with the virtual film school.
Yes.
Yeah. So we hope to have some good news to announce shortly. And we are, meeting with investors, including strategic investors. So there may be so all this good news is hopefully linked if we're able to close some deals here in Canada, which I'm, as I mentioned, we got very interesting and strong support from the Indigenous leaders. They really see this as something which can be a kind of an enabler for their students, enable them to connect with the world, maybe to make a living doing it, lots of different benefits. Right. So hopefully we'll have some good news to announce soon.
Because I can see the way that one would sell it to the Indigenous population. They don't have to leave their community. They can stay in their community and still be part of their community while interacting with a larger world and hopefully earning a living. Yeah,
exactly. That's a really ideal outcome from their perspective. So.
Well, about 3 years ago, down at NAB, the huge NAB show in Las Vegas, Patrick Palmer, who's the head of all of Adobe's video apps, called me on the phone and said, "Hey, I'm going to go over and check out the virtual pod area. I want to come along with me." And so we went over, and they had like 3 different headsets you could try. And so Patrick and I spent a little bit of time together comparing headsets, which ones we liked and which ones we didn't. And wow, with the headsets they had, and of course this was 3 years ago, would have been 2018. It was 4 years ago now. It was real easy to see the whole thing about the fatigue because with one of them we both noted about a minute and a half or 2 in, we had that thing off because it was and they had some people that had no problem with it, but we noted that one of them we could make about 10 minutes before we were going, this is kind of feeling a little strange. But so then we, took them off, and we just stood there and we watched the results to see what other people were doing, and it wasn't that uncommon. And we were talking with one of the people that was running the thing, who was going, yeah. And he says it's like the whole thing with 3D. Some people go into a 3D, and especially the way they were running the 3D was kind of exaggerated. Yeah. Some people went into the theater and thought that was really awesome. Other people went into the theater and were feeling like they were going to puke in 30 seconds. And so you're saying so you need to kind of back off like the 3D so that people don't puke. But there were some things he was saying, the settings that they could be working on with the headsets to make the VR headsets better. But I haven't done anything with them since then. So this has been really fascinating.
Right.
Education with VR headsets. I mean, if you can get it so that it's working and people can stand being in it, it's really awesome.
Well, 3 years is like a lifetime, so I'm sure things have changed immensely.
Oh yeah,
at time. It's really just getting started because now the pace is really picking up even further because of the pandemic. There's been a lot of focus on different kinds of remote education, and VR has been part of that. But now I read every day about new schools that are experimenting. I mean, I think that's where we're at right now. We're at the experimenting phase. Nobody's got a sure thing yet. Yeah. But one company that I think I mentioned to Miriam, I met with a company in Peru, and they are using VR for industrial training. Okay. Right. So like how to operate mining machinery. In other words, dangerous kinds of equipment. And they've been having quite a bit of success, I would say. They grew with the VR hardware. They started with the primitive stuff, and now they're also using the Quest 2 like we are. And what they've accomplished really impressed me. So they're now meeting with lots of American companies and looking for opportunities. So VR has actually been more successful in the industrial realm than in the consumer realm.
It has, yeah.
That will change.
Yeah.
I can really see how for many of the things like that, VR would be really a very awesome tool.
Yeah, and that's the point. Is you have to have a strong use case. If it's a weak case, then people won't bother. They say, well, what's the point? Like, why do I need to do this if it's not really any better than doing it with a flat screen? Right. Exactly. So there has to be something that you're doing where you're really getting an advantage out of the VR technology.
Well, in the medical field, it's also been rolled out quite extensively. HoloLens jumped in really quickly for training medical students on cadavers.
Yes.
So how do you strip, an organ, just the whole kind of thing. And I've seen a kind of demonstration of it. It was quite actually insane because you can stack up muscle layers. And it's been projected. This is what it is. This is what the layers. But you can also peel back. Right. If you doing surgery as an example, or starting to become a surgeon, you can understand anatomy from a very different perspective. It's a three-dimensional without having to act. The problem with VR, though, in that particular arena is the kind of lack of tactile feel. There's no feel. There's the tactile touch
Right.
isn't there, and a surgeon needs that. However, that being said, there's been many surgeries cross-continent live that's been done with VR headsets on.
Yes.
The surgeon somewhere in Peru, as an example, is doing a surgery somewhere in Australia. So the possibilities are endless. It's just, I guess, a matter of time for the technology. It's the first technology that actually kind of jumped ahead of what it was supposed to be capable of, and then just got held back because there was too much other kind of stuff going on at the same time. So VR kind of took a back seat right at the back beside the gamers and PlayStation, and all these guys jumped on that, which didn't last too long. But now it's finally becoming something serious. It's not a fad like 3D TVs were, and it's because of COVID. It's actually changed the mindsets of people to understand that it's actually quite an important piece of tech.
I saw one thing a while back, an area that it's being used for that I thought was really kind of intriguing, and that was one of the fishing companies that's up in Alaska. And of course, they have ocean fishing and in waters that pretty much rock and roll most of the time. I mean, a calm day there, the waves are only 10 or 15 feet high, and so the boats are going up and down and angling and everything like that. And of course, they don't like to put somebody on as a new hire who gets out there and with that and where there's no medication, no Dramamine or anything that can help them go. They're just sick as a dog until you put them off because they're totally useless on the boat. But you don't know that until, of course, you put them on the boat, right?
Right.
Well, they found that they could have recordings of people with VR cameras on a helmet that are just working on the boat and working around and take like an hour or two of that, and they can put you in a room and just have you standing there and start playing that over your headset. And of course, you don't have to look where the guy was looking when he was looking there. You can look sideways at the waves or anywhere you want to look, and it's very fascinating. People start swaying with the boat, and they can watch, and in a very few minutes they can tell no, because you have someone that starts wiggling and all of a sudden they're falling down on their butt and they can't figure out how to get up or anything like that, and they're going, yeah, no, this person is not going out in the boat. We're not putting them out on the boat. And I was looking at that and going, wow. And it was really funny to watch because they had like this one guy that they put it on, and within like 30 seconds he's falling on his butt and can't even hold himself up with his hands, and going, yeah, obviously this person has a balance sense that is just going to be so totally obliterated out in a rough boat that no use for him to go out there. But an interesting way to test people to see if they can handle the circumstance.
Absolutely, and I think the firm in Peru does the same thing with cranes, crane operators. They want to see how people feel when they're up in a crane, right. And are they going to be able to handle it? And it's a way to test it without without actually putting them there. So I'll take a look at that.
That's from your site where the questions asked, how will you learn? Is that not what you're going to learn, or what will you learn from? How will you learn? It's got a YouTube link to it, showing the entire VR process. It's very intriguing. I'm just looking a little bit at it.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
This is very exciting. Well, it's been wonderful talking with you, Ian. And we're going to have to follow up in another month or a year and find out where virtual film school is at.
Absolutely. And Ian, if you guys want to look at instructors for post-production and things like that, you must let us know. We're always available. Yes.
Yes.
Good deal.
Fantastic. Right. Lovely talking to you.
Great to meet you, and I'm sure we'll speak again.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
All right.